we're all in trouble, right? There's going to be a stoppage, whatever you want to call it, a strike, a lockout, blah, blah, blah.
Whatever.
Right, whatever. It doesn't matter what you call it. The end result is the same. Where are you right now?
I do think there has been a rush to negativity by a lot of the media that covers.
Well, the last
sport.
one was pretty ugly. Last one was, and it went.
All right. Fib on Manfred. First problem I got with him of this video. Hey, Rob, if you weren't so worried about it and it wasn't so overblown, why were you in the Phillies locker room jawing with Bryce Harper earlier this year to get ahead of the story and try to circumvent the players' union by talking to the Philadelphia Phillies in the locker room? And then Bryce Harper told you to go pound salt and you left with your tail in between your legs. And that was the first shot heard round the world with the impending strike of 27, Manfred. Well, what's going on, folks? Rob Manfred was on WFAN this week, and it kind of got overlooked, so I wanted to sit here with you on this Saturday, have a little laid-back version of the New York Minute, go through the video and see what Rob Manfred has to say about everything baseball. Let's go to the videotape.
All right, it's funny, just to start off with the Yankees, something that Chris and I talked about yesterday. He's upset that there's not more action post-World Series, obviously, spring training and whatnot. And I didn't realize that, I guess the last time you guys negotiated the CBA, you tried to put a deadline in, which I suggested to Chris yesterday, as a way to have some action and excitement for the free agency period. Kind of walk me through that.
Well, we're going to be good. I'm with Chris on this one.
We need to pick it up.
The proposal really was not about trying to alter the terms of deals one direction or another. I'm kind of a believer in you have a deadline. You're going to make the same deal, give or take,
Right.
If you string it out. I think the reason I was interested in, I think that like from the 1st of December to the 20th, if we had a period in there when all that free agency activity went on, it's a great marketing opportunity for the game at a point in the calendar when, you're not quite in the NFL playoffs, the NBA still.
See, this is why Rob Manfred, he gets a lot of heat. But the one thing that this dude is trying to do is bring Major League Baseball into this century, okay? He's trying to make this game faster, quicker, and a year-round sport. If you notice, man, baseball 15 years ago would be like, okay, look at the offseason moves, blah, blah, blah. But the NFL has monopolized that corner of the market where football is a year-long sport. Rob Manfred's doing the same thing. And by putting a cap on the offseason moves, you would put more attention to it, because if you notice, all the eyeballs of the sports world was on baseball for about a month of December and nothing was happening. Indirectly, it hurts the sport. Rob Manfred brought in the pitch clock, shift restrictions, the X runner, the extra runner in extra innings, the 3-batter minimum, intentional walks, limited mound visits, pitch calm, the pitch clock. I like the moves that he's brought in. I don't like the Manfred runner because I don't think that you should have a rule in the regular season and then you don't carry it off to the playoffs, because it means that you really don't believe in it that much. And they got away with it during the pandemic year because they were able to throw so much stuff at it and use the excuse of the pandemic to implement changes in baseball. I think the pitch clock has been excellent for baseball. Let me know what you think in the comments below, because I like the fact that baseball doesn't have a clock, but I don't need to watch a guy scratch his nuts for about a minute and a half. That's not baseball, Susan.
Kind of early, and it's a great chance to kind of own some off-season weeks, right, which is crucial to selling tickets, selling season tickets. So that's why I was in.
Because if you think about the NFL, when they have free agency, it's a frenzy. These guys usually have the deal locked up a week before free agency hits. And then when NFL free agency hits, your phone is smoking with all the news coming through. It's been in hibernation this MLB offseason?
Look, I'm going to ask you a question. I know it's hard for you to answer because how can you possibly put yourself in the brains of the players and the union reps?
Yeah.
But was there a legitimate reason from them why they were opposed to it?
Yeah, I mean, what they said back, I can only tell you what they said.
Yeah.
I don't know what was in their heads, but what they said back was they thought that kind of deadline would work to the disadvantage of the players. And, I don't put much credence in this. Let's face it, on both sides of these negotiations, there's really sophisticated people who negotiate for a living all the time. You tell them whatever the hell the rules are, it's all going to turn out the same, no matter what.
Guys, just remember, Rob Manfred, every commissioner in every sport, he works on behalf of the owners. The Major League Baseball Players Association, next to the teachers union in the United States, is one of the strongest unions, and they can call the shots. But I would like to ask Commissioner Manfred is how can you give an agent like Scott Boras this much power over your sport? You have one agent holding your sport hostage, and his name is Scott Boras.
What they're,
Right.
it's the money is the money. So, but that's what they said. But I do think it is something that would help the game in terms of maintaining interest during the offseason.
Yeah, no, coming off that World Series to have the winter meetings be lifeless is disappointing as a fan.
I agree.
I can tell you. So is that something that you could see being rebrought up? I've heard things as much like, maybe a trade deadline, other kind of deadline set around that baseball winter meeting.
Yeah, I think there's going to be
continue.
I think there's going to be some more conversation about it because I do believe that there's a marketing opportunity. And, let's face it, we operate in a really competitive environment. Just put entertainment generally to one side, just sports, right? It's really competitive. And I think that you make a mistake, particularly during the off season, when you don't take every advantage to push your sport out in front of your fans during that.
And I think that's an excellent point by him because there is so much momentum after the World Series and the baseball season that you will wish that baseball would start immediately after the World Series ends. And you can take that momentum and you can get new fans with it. You can grow the fan base because, listen, man, baseball in a world of social media, 15-second clips, NBA, instant gratification, fantasy football, baseball has survived. And I think Manfred has modernized the game with keeping the traditions of the game.
Right. Down period.
You're coming off one of the greatest postseasons in recent memory, and specifically one of the great World Series in recent memory. And we're trying to figure out, how do you capitalize off that? But also brought to mind the fact that there's a lot of people in a lot of cities that love baseball that are now uber concerned that because of the Dodgers' financial capabilities and, frankly, the fact that they arguably have the best general manager in baseball and a very smart front office, so they make very shrewd baseball moves, that there's the danger of them becoming, a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, consecutive World Series type of franchise.
I hear a lot of complaints about the Dodgers, and the Dodgers beat the Yankees in the World Series. Listen, man, I don't have a leg to stand on. I'm a Yankee fan. We bought our way to rings in the 90s and the early 2000s. We tried in the 2000s. But spending a lot of money does not equate to World Series rings. What equates to World Series rings is what the Dodgers are doing, playing three-dimensional chess with the economics of baseball, and they have the number one farm system in all of baseball. So not only are they spending, and usually teams in Major League Baseball, the more they spend, the worse their farm system is. Not only do the Dodgers spend the most, have the most deferred money, have the best player, Shohei Ohtani, in the game. They've won World Series now. They scoop every single Japanese player up that they can. They can't do anything wrong. And guess what? You know whose fault it is? The rest of baseball who's sitting on their hands. The Dodgers went out and tried to separate themselves from the rest of baseball, and they did.
Which I know it might not be possible the way the sport's played. They were damn near close to losing the World Series this past year. I think sports needs villains. I think having a team or two in either league that are dominant is good overall for the sport because it's okay to root against somebody also, right? Are you concerned, though, in the manner in which the Dodgers have done some of these deals with all this deferred money and their ability to just restock every single year?
Yeah, look, let me say this. I admire what the Dodger organization has done on both sides of the house. I mean, they've done a phenomenal job on the revenue side, and they've made great baseball decisions. Right. And, getting those two together is harder than you think. And everything they've done completely within the rules, and a large market like the Dodgers does drive your business. I mean, there's no, whether you say large market, villain, whatever, sure. A team that's winning a lot can drive the market. I think the advantage baseball has is a very random sport. And, the chances of stringing that many together, I think, are fairly limited. But I do get concerned. We try to listen to our fans, and we do hear from fans in a lot of markets that, gee whiz, when we look at the resources they have compared to the resources that are available in our market, we don't feel like it's quite a fair shake. And that's an issue we're going to have to deal with.
So what keeps you asleep more at night? The prospect of the Dodgers being a super team, or the reality that there's still some franchises that are unwilling to get into the game and spend the type of money that it seems like you have to spend to be just competitive?
Yeah, I want to quibble with one word. Unwilling.
Okay.
I think unable is really.
Okay. So the Pittsburgh Pirates, they sit on their hands. They spend no money. Okay. And then they cry. So there's a way to get around that. If you're a small market team, you better invest all of your money in scouting and the farm system, because that's the way that you can compete against these guys. And you know what? These teams that cry hunger with a loaf of bread under their arm, give me a break. In baseball, you don't lose money, you make money. And guess what? If you win in baseball, you win more money. You win. Look at what the New York Yankees did. All those rings that they won in the 90s, it built them a new stadium in the Bronx.
A better word. But having said that, I worry more about the latter. And I worry more about the latter because I think when you have a 162-game season, you have to think all the time and listen to your fans when they're saying, we don't feel like we have a chance to compete. Right. Because when people feel like they don't have a chance to compete, they check out on you.
Yeah, and you say unwilling, and we argue unwilling, and I get it, but like the Pittsburgh Pirates just signed their first multi-year contract in years. It's hard to tell a fan base, I'll be honest with you, it's hard to tell a fan base that the Pittsburgh Pirates are incapable of competing at a higher level at that. Is there any way we can start incentivizing some of these teams to spend?
Pittsburgh Pirates owner made $300 million. They have one of the best stadiums in the game. They got Paul Skeens, and it's a travesty what they do, man. The Pittsburgh Pirates should be one of the flagship stations of Major League Baseball. They're one of the original teams, man.
More.
Yeah, look, I think that the question of incentivization is a really important one. I think probably three other sports have dealt with it by having a rule. You got to spend, everybody talks about the cap piece. The cap piece comes with another piece.
And here we go. This is what leads to it. The owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Los Angeles Dodgers are on two ends of the spectrum. It's the have and have-nots. And this is when you get a strike. This is why the strike's happening or going to happen.
Right.
That where you have to spend. And I think mandating a certain level of commitment in terms of spending in the right kind of economic system can be a good thing.
Yeah.
That brings us to the obvious question, the one I'm sure you've been asked about a million times. People that cover the sport seem like it's a fait accompli. We get one more year of baseball, and then we're all in trouble, right? There's going to be a stoppage, whatever you want to call it, a strike, a lockout, blah, blah, blah.
Whatever.
Right, whatever. It doesn't matter what you call it. The end result is the same. Where are you right now? And, the folks that make up your think tank and your trusted advisors with baseball and the relationship you have with the union representatives, do you think that is a reality? And do you think you guys can get to the table enough times to maybe work something out or even, push back, extend the CBA while negotiating? What do you think about that?
Look, I do think there has been a rush to negativity by a lot of the media that covers.
Well, the last one was pretty ugly. Last one was, and it went.
All right. Fib on Manfred. First, problem I got with him of this video. Hey, Rob, if you weren't so worried about it and it wasn't so overblown, why were you in the Phillies locker room jawing with Bryce Harper earlier this year to get ahead of the story and try to circumvent the players union by talking to the Philadelphia Phillies in the locker room? And then Bryce Harper told you to go pound salt and you left with your tail in between your legs. And that was the first shot heard round the world with the impending strike of 27, Manfred.
Went pretty long.
Well, that was Max Scherzer's fault. He's going to be around for the next one.
And there was multiple times where we thought we were missing games. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
look, here's the thing. I came inside at baseball in 1998. We have always played through 5 or 6 rounds of bargaining. We have always played 162 games. Okay. All I can tell you is that when I came, my goal was to make sure that every time we bargained, we played 162, and that's my goal this time around. We haven't even started the process. Candid conversation about, we see things that, need to be addressed. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make this proposal or that proposal. I think we have to wait and see how things unfold at the table. We got lots and lots of time to work on it. And the most important thing for fans is certainly my goal to make sure that we played 162 games next.
Yo, I lived through the strike of 1994. I was 11 years old. Do the math. I was 11 years old. That sucked. I was 11. It was 1994. The New York Yankees and, yes, the Montreal Expos were 1 and 2 with the best records in Major League Baseball. Matt Williams I think he hit 50 bombs at that point. And they had a strike in the season, and that was going to be Donnie Baseball's best year to try to win a chip. So strikes suck. And Rob Manfred, he's right. In his defense, they haven't had one yet. They had a lockout, but they had 162 games. There's been 162 games played, so I do have some belief in it. But guys, if you think that he's going to implement a salary cap on these dudes because of cheap owners, you're not going to have baseball for a long time. Because the one thing about baseball and the reason that guys become baseball players is the stupid money that they make. And what are you going to do with contracts like Juan Soto if you implement a salary cap after the fact? That's going to get a little murky, no? Let me know what you think in the comments below about all this. We're playing this whole video. We're in for the long haul, baby, because we got Rob Manfred on WFAN right here in New York. And if you're joining us right here on New York Minute, thank you. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's get back to the video.
Next year.
Talking to Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Major League Baseball, I know one of the things for a fact that keeps all the commissioners awake at night are the potential for a gambling scandal and the integrity of the game being called into question.
Right.
You guys have dealt with it a few times already this past year, where a couple guys have been suspended. Obviously, the Ohtani story played itself out about a year ago now with his interpreter.
Ohtani's guilty. He's a gambler. Okay? I don't hate the Dodgers. Ohtani is crooked, okay? He's a gambler, and he's a really bad one. And his trainer is a patsy. I don't care what anyone wants to tell me otherwise. That was the biggest bullshit job ever because they wanted to save baseball, just like the NBA wanted to save the NBA in the 90s when they found Michael Jordan gambling on basketball and made him go play baseball for a couple of years. Now, they used to catch these guys and ban them for life like Pete Rose. Now Shohei Ohtani brings billions of dollars and brings money from a global market, and baseball cannot afford to lose a guy like that and have egg on their face. It could ruin the league, and when they're doing so well right now. So I don't believe in that. And you guys can try to convince me otherwise. I'm going to be 10 toes down on this subject.
How concerned are you about gambling getting to a place where it's uncontrollable and you have guys making the types of decisions that some of your players have been accused of making? Now, they get their day in court, obviously, but how concerned are you about gambling and having a gambling scandal?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, integrity is number one on every commissioner's concern list. And, when you have problems, and we have had some issues, it heightens that concern. I do think that there are things that can be done. And I kind of feel like we saw this one coming. There's certain types of bets that are really problematic. I mean, when you have a bet that's in the control of one player and the event that they're betting on really has no relation to the ultimate outcome of the game.
Like, are you going to throw a ball or a strike?
That's what they're dealing with right now. First pitch of the game at bat, first pitch of an inning.
So I think that...
But my question is, for all these guys that have everything figured out, right? They love computers. They figure out all the stats. They have projections out the ass and stuff like that. In the infinite wisdom of the gambling sites, don't you think they would have had the foresight to see this, that this could have been a problem? Or did they let it happen for a couple of years? They let people fill up the coffers and line their pockets, and now they're like, hey, man, we shouldn't have the under on anything. What? You didn't think that this was going to be a problem? Oh, my toe, it hurts. I'm not playing. You go in for the first inning, and then you go, oh, my elbow, it hurts, and you sit out. It just, they think that we're stupid also, which is, some of us are.
No legal betting. We got a lot of legal betting now. I think that there probably should be a little swing back regulation.
Let me stop you and ask you a question. Do you, and I just don't know the answer, and obviously I'm a responsible gaming ambassador for FanDuel. I spoke to every NBA rookie at the symposium this year and have offered the same, as you know, to all the leagues, just from my life experience. Can you guys dictate to the legal book?
Carton's an ambassador for FanDuel? I mean, the guy's in recovery for gambling. Whatever, I won't.
Hey, listen, appreciate the partnership. It's made the game more popular. I can make that argument. I think that's a fact to say that. Can you dictate to the leagues or to the gambling companies, we no longer want you to offer in-game wagering or those types of wagers you're talking about?
Yeah, we actually have worked with all the sports books to limit the prop bets, no parlays involved with them, only small dollar amounts to limit the prospect for
the exposure.
Exposure. And, we try to work with them as partners to get to the right spot. As you can imagine, in-game is a very broad category where a lot of money gets wagered, and it does relate to the engagement issues. But what I started to say is I do think you're going to see kind of a move back, and people are going to be a little more rational about what bets ought to be offered. I also think the other place you're going to, just in terms of how pervasive, and we've tried to be careful about that, pervasive in terms of it getting into the middle of broadcasts and whatnot. Yeah.
So you are concerned. There's a level of concern. That's fair to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, off of that, because with gambling is also bad calls. Right. And so we've had you've had a referee issue, an umpire issue for a while. And this year they're going to be implementing the replay with the
balls and strikes.
Mm-hmm. Where are we with that? Are we looking at how far along the line before we get just full automatic? Where are we with just calling the replay? Where do we see the replay system going for balls and strikes?
Well, look, I think that this year it's going to be a challenge system,
2 challenges a game.
2 challenges.
But the challenge is only pitcher, batter, catcher.
Right. But if you're right, you keep them. We tested it full, every pitch. It works. I think that
I can't wait to see Juan Soto put that to the test. If you get it right and you keep him, what stops Juan Soto from doing that 15 times a game? I think you should maybe just get 2 and that's it. Because it should be used at high leverage situations at the end of the game that doesn't decide the game, and that's when you get a challenge. But I loved the challenge system when they tap their helmet and stuff like that. And also, it's going to add a lot more to people like Jason Dominguez, who was the leader in AAA, in the Yankees farm system, in balls and strikes, and won the most challenges, check it out, in the minor leagues, Jason Dominguez. Also, this puts less of an emphasis on framing of the pitches. So we've heard all the framing of the pitches and stuff like that. Now this is going to take away from it a little bit. Now this also takes away more from baseball because now with the replays, you don't get those fiery confrontations between the umps unless you're Aaron Baboon.
Challenge
Bubbles.
system is the right
Baboon.
first
Whoa.
step. And I also think it's consistent with our approach to replay. I think our game is such that you're never going to get everything perfect on the field. That's an unattainable goal. What you want to do is have a system in place that allows the players an opportunity to correct the high leverage miss. And I think that the challenge system is that kind of system.
It's funny. I saw a poll. I'm not sure if it's a poll you guys did, just an internal poll or not, but it was a polling of players and fans, people that have bought a ticket to a game this past year on the ABS system. And it seemed overwhelmingly that the fans do not want full-time automated balls and strike calls. They like the challenge system, and they still want there to be an umpire calling balls and strikes.
Yeah, that is the fan polling, and it may be more important in my own thinking. Tons and tons of major league players have played with both systems in the minor leagues. The players overwhelmingly preferred the challenge system. I do think it's a pretty good rule of thumb when you're doing something on the field and you get that kind of an overwhelming response from players, that you ought to give a little credence to it, that they've experienced it, they know what they're talking about. And look, they have some legitimate concerns. If you go to ABS, every pitch, it will change the game.
See, what do you think about this, though? Will it add more time to the game? And all they did was say that the extra runner and the pitch clock was to make the game faster. But if you have two challenges that you keep, and then if you're right, you keep to continually use them, isn't that going to slow the game down? Let me know what you think in the comments below, what he said so far. Do you agree? Do you hate him? Do you like him? Let me know.
And this is one of the hard things about making changes in baseball in ways that people don't think about. So, for example, if ABS is calling every pitch, the framing catcher, the guy who's not that great offensive player, but, he's great behind the plate. He gets a lot of calls.
A lot of value in it right now.
That guy
goes away.
Becomes he's done. That guy's job goes away. And then you got to think the next step. Who goes back there? He probably, a more offensive-minded player. And that's got a series of ramifications associated with it. Now, more offense, that might be a good thing. But I'm just saying, when you make a change like that, you got to think all the way through these unforeseen examples.
Let me go back to the union for 1 second. Just a thought appeared in my mind. If the union is telling you steadfastly, we will never agree to a cap, but you guys collectively think a cap's the only way for success, future success financially for the sport, you still sit down and talk about it, right? At a negotiation. Does it become a deal breaker? Like we can't get a CBA done if there's no movement on that?
That's a Tony Clark question. It really is. I have never, and, really, until I got elected commissioner, all I did was labor relations. That's how I made my living. I've never been in a negotiation where before the first piece of paper went across the table, I or anyone I represented was out there saying, this we absolutely will not talk about. I just think it's a hard way to begin a negotiation.
You just got your answer right there about the strike. The first shot, Tony Clark coming out, making a comment. Rob Manfred, after the comment was made, went into the Phillies locker room. There's already squabbling. They're already not even talking. And he thinks that Tony Clark is starting these negotiations out of bad faith as a representative of the players' union. That's not a good way to start this. And I think it's undermining the intelligence of the baseball fan. Is that Rob Manfred saying, oh, don't worry about the strike. Don't worry about the strike. We've never had it. But guess what? These are indication, and where there's smoke, there's fire, that baseball is looking down the barrel of a strike in 27, and that Tony Clark and Rob Manfred do not like each other. And those are going to be the two people that are representing both sides in a possible strike in 27. What do you guys think about a possible strike in 27? Do you think it's going to happen? Or do you think it's just fool's gold and they're just trying to make us worry that we're going to miss baseball?
I think you guys have done a good job for the sport, something that I think baseball struggled with for a long time, even predating you, where baseball was always really good at honoring its past, its legacy, the great players of the past, and not great making current great players household names and making them so they can't walk down Fifth Avenue without being noticed. And it seems like this past year, that turned dramatically in a good way.
It's been this has been a multi-year effort, and
Social media, social media, social media. That's what's making this. And I have to give props to Manfred, dude. By making this game quicker, he's reached the young kids. And also baseball. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You have 82 games in the NBA. You have 82 games in the NHL. I mean, the football season is here. It's gone. Baseball seems like it's all year long. And just think about it right now, guys. I want you to go with me. Backyard, July. 78 degrees. It's 7:05. You got the grill fired up. You preheated the steaks. Now, you turn the radio on. You turn the TV on. And you fire that baseball game up. I'm literally getting chills thinking about it right now. We got 38 days until pitchers and catchers. Let's go. And the World Baseball Classic, baby. Let's go.
And focus for us. And, sometimes you get lucky. Things come together in a way.
Well, you had a guy named the Big Dumper. So who doesn't love that?
And you know what? You make my first point. We are lucky. We have an unbelievably appealing, talented group of players in the game right now. I mean, just great personalities, great players, have accomplished unbelievable things very, very early in their career, number one. Number two, this generation of players is a little different. They are much more social media savvy, much more, attuned to the idea that they're a brand and that brand has value to them and that they work with us and at the idea of promoting themselves.
Unless you're Jazz Chisholm. Unless you're Jazz Chisholm and you literally put knight's gear on, you put a knight in shining armor on and go to war every day on Twitter and social media. That's not what Rob Manfred's talking about, Jazz.
And we have tried to develop programs that make it easy. We have a huge social media program that makes it really easy for players to post highlights and comment on them because we think that drives fandom and it gives our fans something that our research tells us really important, the ability to see the player beyond what they see on the field. So
talking to Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Major League Baseball, World Baseball Classic this year. Yankee fans are not thrilled that Aaron Judge is participating in it because of Edwin Diaz a couple of years ago getting hurt.
I mean, that's the concern of it, right? I mean, that's still the concern. The time of year, I suppose, I don't know if there's a better time to do it right before this.
It's about baseball. Aaron Judge is Captain America. And he needs to play for the USA. Don't get me wrong. I'm the same guy, Yankee fan, that said Yankees shouldn't even play in the All-Star game, all right? But when it comes to playing for your country, and I have been a World Baseball Classic junkie since day one, I'm going this year. There'll be more details on that leading up to the World Baseball Classic. I'll fill you guys all in. I'm probably going to be covering it from the World Baseball Classic. Details to follow. But the World Baseball Classic is some of the best baseball you will find. For these guys that dog it for your team in July running to first, it's like they have rockets on the back of their shoes representing their country, and especially Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Italy. It's unbelievable. If you haven't checked it out yet, Fox is carrying it this year, and Rob Manfred is pushing this, and they are trying to go global. Just like the Dream Team brought basketball to the rest of the world in the early 90s, that's what Rob Manfred's trying to do with the World Baseball Classic.
The season gives guys as much time possible to recover from injury, but that's the concern of it. It does bring a lot of excitement, but the baseball fans' concern is we saw devastating injuries to players, and we know baseball, unfortunately, especially pitchers, ramping up their workload early to go take on these very competitive games. And to the credit of the tournament, it feels like it's ramping up in its competition. USA's.
Well, that's why in the beginning of the competition, you had no-name guys playing for USA. Teams would not give up their players, and they would tell them no to go pitch. And when you had the first team in the World Baseball Classic, their starting pitchers were like AAA guys that are in their first 5 years of a contract. So you had these rookie guys, and it was kind of cool because it was almost like quasi-college players. But now this thing means a lot. This thing means a lot. The last out of the World Baseball Classic, we missed it because of the pandemic, but the last out was Shohei Ohtani striking out his teammate, Mike Trout. I mean, I didn't like the outcome, but can you get better baseball than that? I don't think so.
He's really brought a lot of players to the team this year. I think that would be the concern, that these young pitchers, especially, ramping up their arms, getting ready to play playoff type atmosphere games.
Well, I would say this. There is nothing stronger than the notion of nationalism and sport when you're trying to grow something internationally. The WBC, one of the biggest events in Japan, a big part of the growth that we've seen and so when you're trying to grow the game and try to grow the game internationally, it's really, really hard to ignore the power of nationalism and sport, the combination, number one. Number two, you got to remember, these are professional athletes. There are limitations in the WBC rules that are designed to protect players. While I can't say we've had no injuries, our injury record in the WBC actually pretty darn good. The Diaz thing, obviously.
Knock on wood, Manfred. Jesus, why are you saying that? Everyone's going to get hurt now.
Very unfortunate. Got a lot of attention because
it was during a celebration.
Yeah, it wasn't even during the game.
No, I think everyone understands it's a fluke. But he's in a position to put himself in a fluke injury, but it is a fluke injury.
And I think that as the event has matured, there's a lot more kind of direct control by the clubs in terms of what's happening, particularly with pitching. There's conversation back and forth. For example, with the U.S. team between Mark DeRosa and who's ever.
Yeah, in the beginning, there was a pitch count. It was 65 for the starters. So there is a tight limit on it, and I believe that the teams are able to implement pitch counts and workloads.
Responsible for pitching on the team where the pitcher's coming from, making sure that what we're doing with them in the WBC is consonant with their plan for getting the pitcher ready. So we're trying to take every precaution, but the more positive note, and really,
I think it's great. I love it.
It is a great. This is going to be one of the best baseball tournaments ever.
Yeah.
It's going to really.
And by the way, I was saying to him earlier today, the fan reaction, because Latin American fans, and music and drums and dancing, and I'm jealous of it.
Yeah.
Because it's like every one of these games is an event, and you feel like I'm missing out because I'm not at the event. You know what I mean?
The atmosphere in the ballpark in Miami. The last WBC.
It's awesome.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, no one ever goes to watch baseball games down there. It's a thrill to see that stadium.
We just saw that. Here's a different one. We just saw the NBA, or they've begun this in-season
tournament. The
Emirates Cup. Has there ever been a consideration of doing some sort of in-season baseball tournament with the 162?
We talk about all of those kinds of. We talk about them as format changes. We've talked about split seasons. We've talked about in-season in tournaments. We do understand that 162 is a long pull. I think the difficulty, to accomplish those sort of.
If you were going to take games away from Major League Baseball, the problem with that is that Major League Baseball is a stat-oriented game. Like, if you say, who has the most touchdown passes thrown in NFL history, I think it's Tom Brady, just for the record, to keep my guy card. But, it's not a stat-oriented game, the NFL. Major League Baseball is, and we rely on stats. Who's the home run leader of all time? And it's all up for debate because juice and not juice and stuff like that. But once you start taking it down to 154, now it's a whole new set of rules. And then also guys like Aaron Judge, who got hurt by the pandemic in his career. I mean, you could add another 40 home runs on Aaron Judge's total because he only played half a season.
In-season events, you almost inevitably start talking about fewer regular season games. And, that is it is a much more complicated thing in our sport than it is in other sports.
Because of the records.
All of our season-long records,
changes.
You're playing around with something that people care a lot about.
No, I know. And most fans differ. For me, if you say they need to change the games, I go 163. I mean, that's me. I'm the kind of baseball fan that says that. But there definitely is. And I want to ask you about realignment, right? We got possible expansion and realignment coming up. Where are we with the expansion idea? And then with realignment, can Yankee fan and Met fans, and this would be great for us, can we envision a time where Yankees and Mets are in the same division? What does that mean for American League, National League? We just talked about the tradition of baseball. Like, how dramatic of this expansion and realignment could change the game.
Yeah, so let's start with, first of all, I would like to expand. I think 32 would be good for us. And, fundamentally, it's a lot of cities like to have Major League Baseball. When people want your product, you ought to try to, find a way to sell it to them. It's kind of basic, number one. Number two, it does a ton of for us from a format perspective. You would realign. You would do it along geographic lines, which could alleviate a ton of the travel burden.
I know, but dude, this isn't good for the Yankees, the Mets, the Phillies, and the Red Sox, because we'd all be crammed in a division together, and you'd have to call the National Guard to home games. Like, it's a disservice to the Yankees, Phillies, Mets, and Red Sox, because 4 of those franchises all spend money. Now you're going to put like the Pittsburgh Pirates, Tampa Bay Rays, and Atlanta Braves, and teams like the Orioles who don't spend any money in the same division. That is unfair. So I don't know how it's going to line up, but it better not be that, because, listen, I would love it as a baseball fan, but I like the fact that we get to see the Mets in a Subway Series. I like the AL East it is, and this is why I am doing AL East right here on YouTube, New York Minute. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, because this could be the last year of the AL East. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think this is going to be the last year we see the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees in the same division?
And it's on players. Remember, we ask our players 162 times in 186 days. So most of the play between 162 and 186 travel, right? I mean, so you can eliminate a lot of that travel and make it less burdensome.
These guys aren't on the Oregon Trail. They're taking private jets. I mean, really, travel, it's not like it used to be. They're not on a ship going across the sea, Manfred. I mean, we really need to have a reality check. They're making $40 million a year. I think you can cram into a private jet. What do you think?
Which would be a great thing in terms of player health and safety. And if you play geographically, we get in a postseason. We have those 4 window days that I love, right? You get 4 baseball games in a day. It's awesome. But when you think about the fans in the individual markets, you always end up with, because of the way we're set up, you get Boston versus Anaheim in one of the early rounds. So you're either going to be too late for the fans in Boston or too early. So if you realign geographically, you would look more like other sports where you play up east into the World Series and west into the World Series. And that 10 o'clock game on the West Coast that sometimes is a problem for us becomes a primetime game on the West Coast for the two teams that are playing. So there's a lot of advantages to it. I think if you did it, you'd probably be 8-4s, right? Okay. And I think you would try to keep the 2 team cities separate.
You would.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So they would not be in the same division.
Yeah. So that would be my thinking. Now, a lot of water got to go over that.
Okay. All right. So you just heard it here, folks. Mets and Yankees will not be in the same division. If they're in the same city, they will not be in the same division. He just said that.
And by the way, he ain't going to be commissioner for 20 more years either. He's going to give this
right
to
about
somebody
that.
else. By the way, I know you announced a couple years ago, I think you said 5 more years, and that's a wrap for you. Yeah. The juices are still flowing, though. Yeah. You going to stick by that? And are you ready to?
Yeah, I'm done at the end. I'm done at the end of this contract. I've told them that, and I'm going to stick to it. I'll be 70 when I'm done.
So it's enough.
Yeah, it is enough.
Right. The grandkids want to spend more time with you, right?
Yeah, look, I also think, you have a certain period of time when, you have things that you want to accomplish. You take your best shot. You try to get as much done as possible. And then, it's sort of time for the next guy with his set of things. And I think that's healthy and good for the sport and the business.
I saw that you're bringing back Field of Dreams game this year, which was great. Yankees, of course, played it a few years back. Mm-hmm. But, and I'm asking a question I shouldn't know the answer. I apologize. I don't. 250th, anniversary of the country. A lot of big events in D.C. Obviously, MMA, UFC is going to have an event at the White House. Do you guys have, as the original national pastime, events in celebration of the country?
We do. We actually kicked off today. The umbrella for our activities is we're going to donate 250,000 volunteer hours associated with baseball events over the course of this year.
Wow.
The centerpiece for us in terms of celebration will be the All-Star game in Philadelphia. That's why we're going to be in Philadelphia.
That's dope.
But we have
that's awesome. The All-Star game is going to be in Philadelphia, the home of the Liberty Bell, the city of brotherly love, and they're gonna. That's awesome.
Really elaborate marketing plan that involves every aspect of our business that will have a celebration component, celebration of the 250th anniversary of the country. And we're really excited about it. We think that baseball has sort of a special place in American culture, and we're going all out on this one.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Final couple questions. We'll let you go. Appreciate your time. It dawned on me recently that baseball doesn't control its awards. Baseball Writers of America, they get to decide who's the Cy Young, who's the MVP. They own that. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if along your time as commissioner of Major League Baseball, if you've ever thought of trying to change that where baseball owns its own awards. It's very unique in that regard.
Yeah. We actually, the last 3 years, have done an event in Las Vegas, the All MLB Awards.
Right.
It's grown every single year. I think, we had a great picture at the end this year. It's like 100 and something players and former players on the stage at the end of the night. We have been working with the baseball writers. We'd love to have the awards that they own rolled into that celebration, Las Vegas. The key to an event like that, kind of like everything you do in sports, is players. And we think, we can put on a multi-day event in Las Vegas that would attract all the players that win awards. And again, apropos of what we started on today in terms of the signing deadline.
Well, there you go. What you just heard was that baseball is trying to go like the NFL. They're trying to be a year-round sport. Major League Baseball is trying to go the way of the NBA, becoming a global sport with the World Baseball Classic. We just got some big news that the realignment, teams in the same city will not be in the same division, so that means no on the Mets and Yankees being in a new realigned division. The strike that did not sound promising with Tony Clark and him sound like mortal enemies. And if I have to call a spade and facts, I've been happy with the job that Rob Manfred has done. And I know it's low-hanging fruit to hate the commissioner and boom at live events. But guess what? For a sport that was dying a few years ago, Major League Baseball is back. And 2026 is going to be one of the biggest years in Major League Baseball history. And I will be covering it all right here on New York Minute Sports. And also, I've had some questions about the direction of the channel, what I am doing with New York Minute. I will post on baseball when I deem necessary if something's important enough. I just don't want to post things just to post things on here, just to talk baseballs, just to stimulate the algorithm. When I do these shows, it's because I have a feeling in my gut that I got to get out to you. And I hope that I bring that idea over to you through the camera and you see the energy and the love and the passion that I got for baseball, because God granted us the Yankees, and God granted us the greatest national pastime on this globe, Major League Baseball. And you can go over to Instagram, New York Minute. That's NEWYRKMIN. Check out all of our reels, all of our content right here, YouTube. Don't forget to hit the notifications. Please hit the likes and subscribe. Also, I'm streaming on Twitch. Yes, Unk is playing Arc Raiders, WWE 2K GM mode, and MLB The Show when it comes out. And yes, I will be taking on competition from followers on YouTube and Instagram, folks, Battle Royale style. So it's New York Minute Sports. It's New York Sports for New York Nuts. And remember, if you can't be good, be bad, baby. Good night, Canada. Bye.